So if you've seen the sheets before, these are what they look like. There have been some changes with GradeCam, some new features, things that they've done with them. What we're going to just cover though is basically, I'm going to just show you a quick demo right off the hop how it works, what it looks like. And then we can get into the setting it up and all the details. So right here I've got an assignment, a demo assignment I've named it. And it's just a 10-question sheet, which is what this is. And it's set up to this camera here. You can use any webcam. So if you've got a webcam at home, you can use it. There's also an app on the phones. So you can download and install the app on your phone or an iPad, any tablet, anything with a camera, really. And then you can do this anywhere you have internet access. So very first thing, I've got 2 student tests here that are filled out. And we can see, I'll make it bigger just so you can see what it looks like on the camera screen. So there's the camera right here. And all we do is we just slide this under. And just as soon as you hear that sound, it picked up the results. It's already graded the students. And the other thing about this, if you've done the old Scantron sheets, remember those? You had to do them in pencil only. Yeah. This one here is a little different. It's the opposite. You don't want to use pencil. It's got to be pen or marker. Mainly to do with the way the graphite reflects off the paper. Cameras tend to get thrown off by it. So because of that, if a student was to change their mind, let's say, they can't just erase their answer. We get them to exit out. So in this case here, I've got one who's done that. And you'll see what it looks like. You can see here on question 5, he X'd out A, changed his mind. So I get prompted about that. It asks me, hey, this student filled in 2 answers. And you can set it up as having 2 answers for a test. But there's some caveats with that, which I'll mention afterwards. But in this case here, he changed his mind. He doesn't want A for this question. So I just uncheck it, hit done. And again, it immediately grades Joe here. He did a little bit better, 80%. So after I've scanned my tests, just want to show you what it looks like afterwards, because there's some neat reports with this. So the first screen would just be a basic bar graph for your bell curve. If I had a lot of students, you would see an actual bell curve to it. But to me, it's the item analysis that I'm a big fan of. And what this shows you is how all your students answered their questions. So you can see here for question 1, for example, 50% chose A, 50% chose B. Everybody got questions 2 and 3 right. You get the idea. It really helps you narrow down questions that the students are having trouble with, whether it's a bad question or the students just, maybe you skipped that topic that week, you missed it, et cetera, et cetera. Really useful for this. You can highlight and it'll tell you exactly who answered this if you're curious. So great reporting. And the other thing about this is that you can change your grades or your answer sheet after the fact. You can remove questions, you can change the value of them, and it'll automatically regrade your entire class.
Okay, so we took out question 8 grade.
Yeah, so let's say question 8, we don't like it. The very first tab in this test, there's a key right here, your answer key. And this was the part I was going to show you afterwards, just setting this up.
Oh, yeah, if I'm stuck in the queue, I can wait.
No, this was pretty much where I was heading right after this. So you have an answer key here, which you just click in the answers. So for example, question 8, if I go to change this, it's warning me, hey, you're going to modify your answer key, and it's going to cause everyone to be regraded, which is fine. So as soon as I uncheck that answer, so you can see there's no answer set for question 8, it automatically drops the value to 0 points. It's not worth anything anymore. If I go back to that report, you can see, if we look at our item analysis, it still tells me everyone picked those answers for question 8, but it's not worth anything. So if we were looking at their score under the student overview, instead of being out of 10 points, it's now out of 9 points. So it's extremely fast if you need to regrade things or change things. The other thing I want to mention as well, you can have, remember earlier I was telling you can have more than one choice here. You can have 2 choices be the actual answer, so A and B. And GradeCam lets you actually be very specific with this. So the way I've done that there, A and B, that's an AND. So it means A and B. If you don't get both of them, you don't get the mark. What's neat about this, though, is I can customize this further. So with that, I still have question A is worth 1 point. I can add another answer and say, you know what, I'll take A or B. And they're each worth a point. You want to be fancier, you can say, you know what, I'll take A and if you get both of them, I'll give you 2 points. It's just, it allows a lot of flexibility with this stuff. I just check off that question and we get the edit question box comes up. And this lets you change a lot for these questions. Aside from just having more than one answer, the default for these questions is A, B, C, D, E. But you can change that. You can set it all the way up to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. You can change them to numbers if you want. 1, 2, 3. And you also have true and false type questions. To get, for example, you can see, and again, I know it's a little hard at the back to see it up front. You might see it better on that screen. Question 10 is a true-false question. So again, it's just, it makes it kind of neat for the different types of questions you might want to ask. And since we're looking at the answer sheet here, there's also an option for more than one version. Just by clicking this add versions, and of course, it's not going to let me do it now because I've scanned some tests, but all it does is it gives you up to 5 versions. You get 5 separate answer keys. You still use the same exact forms. When you scan them, the student will have an extra option right in the top left to fill out what version they're in. So if they're doing version 1, 2, or 3. And when you go to scan it, it automatically knows which version that is, what the answer key is. It makes it, again, a lot easier for that kind of stuff. Again, really quick and easy to make changes on your tests. You can do this after the fact. So you've scanned your entire class and you say, you know what? Like I said, we want to change that answer. It's quick and easy. It automatically regrades them. Again, for simplicity, this is just amazing. So, for example, when I generated these, I only have 1 version. So there's no extra versioning. I'll just hop back here, for example, since I don't want to mess up the one I have. I'll quickly add a new exam with 10 questions. I get 10 new ones here. And all I do is if I click that add versions button, I immediately get 5 different answer keys. The limit is 5. You can't have more than that, unfortunately. But I don't think I've met anyone who has more than 5 versions for a test. And that's literally all it is. You get a separate answer key. When you generate a form, this is where you make these guys right here. All you're doing is when you're looking at the exam, you press the forms button, and it shows you a preview of what it's going to look like. So simply put, you can see right up here there's an extra little bubble set, and that's your version. As far as the rest of this goes, you don't have to make any changes here. There are some options you can do. So for example, only for this assignment, this is when I typically tell instructors to change. What that means is you can see these little markings at the bottom of the sheet. This identifies specifically what test this is and whose test it is. So we had some issues where an instructor would say, you know what, I'm going to generate the test for the other 2 part-timers. And they'll give them to their class. And then the part-timer comes to scan it, and it boxes and says, no, this isn't your test. So one of the options is to use for assignments with compatible key. Then it doesn't care whose it is. All it cares about is if you have 10 questions, A, B, C, D, E, yeah, you can scan it. So this makes it so that if there's a full-time instructor who's maybe working with some part-timers who don't maybe have the time to set this up, you can generate the forms for them. They go do their test, they scan the results, quick and easy. Other than that, I wouldn't change any of these settings in here. I mean, typically they make things more difficult for you, to be honest. So for example, this print generic form for any class. All it means is the student fills in their own A number. I'd highly recommend that, because if you pick your class, it's going to generate a form for each student specifically. So that you have to go to class to Chris, here's your test, Eric, here's, you don't want to do that. And on that note, you can import your students directly into GradeCam from MyCambridge. So in MyCambridge, you've got a class list, and most instructors use, to look up their class, etc. There's an option in the far right, and I can't show you that because I don't have an actual class to bring it up, but you would see a CSV GradeCam version. So a CSV file is, it typically opens in Excel, but it's just basically a text document. On the far right, you'll see a little people icon, it's your class list. And when you open that up, there's actually some options at the top to download your class list to your machine, an electronic record. So one will be like an Excel spreadsheet, a PDF, and the third option will be a CSV GradeCam version. and that is made to be imported directly into GradeCam. So really quickly, I'll mention it. When you first sign into GradeCam, you've got these tabs at the top. You've got an assignments tab, that's where your tests are. Your classes is basically a container for your students. So most people never pull up the students or reports tabs here. It's kind of redundant. You'd go into your classes and you'd make a class. So in this case, I made a demo class right here. There's nothing to it. When you hit new, you give it a name, that's it. Once you've named the class, you'll be right here, and you have an option. When you click on New in the class, you can create a student manually. So you go and punch in his name, punch in his A number. But that's kind of, it'll take you forever. If you have 80 students, whatever, you really don't want to be doing that. So you use that Import Students option. And I was mentioning you get that CSV file from My Cambrian. You just drag and drop the file in the box. Hit Next twice and run Import. That's it. Once you do that, all your students come in, and what it does is it uses their A number without the A as a unique identifier. Then when the student comes to do their exam, they fill in their A number. When you scan it, GradeCam knows exactly who it is. On that note, I strongly recommend that you put a name field on the sheet. Students forget to put their A number, they screw up putting in the A number, so when you go to scan it, GradeCam says, well, I don't know who this is. If you don't have a name on it, it's going to make things a bit difficult. The next part of this, which I'm going to show you, is how to generate these forms. And you'll see why, or what I mean by why you wouldn't, or you can, but you can't. You'd be doodling on a picture.
Okay.
So when I'm looking at the exam, and I go to generate my forms, with this forms button right here, this pops up. And again, most of these options, you leave them as default. The name is demo, you leave it at that. Only for this assignment, that's what I was mentioning earlier, whether it's for just you or for any instructor. Print generic form for any class, again, you leave that so that the student fills in their own number. And the number of digits is 8. That's how many numbers are in their A number. The bottom three, I strongly recommend not using them. They're to resize the page, and there are better ways of doing it than using them. But what I want you to see is when I hit this generate button, I'm given two choices, a PDF or a PNG. PDF's a PDF file, it's pretty straightforward, and a PNG is a picture file. The main thing I push instructors to use is the PNG. And the reason for this, get this little picture, and again, you could just print this out like the PDF and go with that. But I usually get them to right-click, copy the image, and then fire up Word. And then you can paste that into your blank Word document, and you can make a lot more tweaks. So for example, adding that name field. Really strongly recommend it. Every time an instructor comes in here to scan a stack of sheets, there's always one. They screw up entering their number, they forget to do it entirely. Every time. So if this was me, this is what I would be doing. I can then print this out. If I want to add extra instructions here, I could. Hey guys, make sure you use pen or marker only. You'll have 60 minutes to do this. It's a lot more flexible this way. Again, if you go with the PDF, you print that out. That's it. And that's what I was saying. This whole piece here is a picture. Now, if you really wanted to put that A in there, you could. You could edit this picture in Paint 3D. If you're familiar with Paint, yeah. And literally just put an A in front of it before you save the picture. We haven't really had any issues where students didn't know that it was, the instructor usually tells them, and again, you could add that instruction right up top here just by saying, hey, enter your A number into your GradeCam ID. And again, as far as for the students are concerned, there's not much for them to fill out, right? They fill out the A number, they start filling out their answers, that's it. So that's, again, the gist of how this works. The reports, like I said, is my big thing is under the item analysis, seeing how they're doing. So again, question 8, wow, everybody did really bad with this. So I'm going to reevaluate that question or strike it completely. And again, you get your nice student overview list. Most times they print this, and it just gives you a quick score sheet. Who did what, how they did, which questions they missed. And again, that's really all there is to GradeCam. Send myself or Orville an email, and we add your account. I mean, you can use the free version. If you just go to gradecam.com right now and sign up for free, you're not going to have all the features. So again, you just send us an email, we create you an account, you get an email from GradeCam, and it just says, here, click here to finish creating your account. You punch in a password, that's it. And then you can use this anywhere. You can go home for the weekend, you've got a camera on your cell phone or an iPad, and you can scan your results from home. Some faculty are a little more comfortable with it. I don't recommend it the first time out. Will sit in the classroom, and as the student comes up to the front of the class, hands in their test, he scans it, boom, takes 2 seconds, there's your mark. The student walks away knowing right away what they got. Not everyone likes that as much, but students can like it. I mean, instead of waiting, because they tend to be impatient, they want to know how they did it. That is one of the caveats I forgot to mention with the class list that you get from GradeCam, from Mike Adrian. And this typically affects international students. When their name goes through the system, it'll show as their first name being blank. The way CSV is formatted is number, comma, first name, comma, last name. And with a lot of them, what happens is the first name, last name gets lumped together as just the last name. So when GradeCam does see that, it will drop any blanks. So it's the one thing we always make sure, make sure to check your class list, especially if you have international students. I, to be honest, haven't seen it with any domestic students, because I guess the way the records are entered. But that's just something you quickly move the last name over to that field. It goes through just fine. And if it doesn't, you'll know right away when you go to scan, it tells you, I don't know who this student is. First thing you check is the A number, and then you can just add them on the fly. Okay, well, add this student. It takes 10 seconds. For a one-off, it's not bad. If you have 80 students, you don't want to be manually punching them 80. Yeah, I mean, really, that's it, guys. There's not a whole lot to this. When we do our training, when someone comes down to see me, I tell them, it's going to take 15, 20 minutes. And that's including setting up your test and printing out your sheets.